Heard clear around the world. Tell us about that gun.
Well, there was this fella. You sure you want to hear this story's history?
Come on!
For Pete's sake, tell the story.
Well, one time, a long time ago, this country was a part of England, and we wasn't getting along with them too good. In fact, we was thinking about breaking away and starting our own country. But the king over there in England, he says, you do that, and I'm going to send my redcoats. They was British soldiers, and he's going to send them over here to whoop us.
Of all the nerve.
Yeah. He says, you better think about that thing. Well, so your great-great-great-great-great-granddaddies all got together, to think about it. And they argued about it back and forth a while. And finally one of them says, let's do it. Let's start our own country. Somebody says, how you do that? Says, I don't know. Says, I reckon you just start. Says, what do we call it? Says, let's call it the United States of America.
That was a good name.
Yeah. Now, about that time, up in Boston, Massachusetts, there's a fellow living up there named Paul Revere. And he's a pretty good old fellow. Just as poor as Job's turkey, but he's a pretty good old fellow. And he owned a real good old horse named Nellie. Now, Paul, he was wandering around the streets up there one night, and he come up on a friend of his. And he says, howdy, what's new? His friend says, what's new? Says, the British is coming. That's what's new. What's the matter with thee? And Paul says, you're kidding. He says, it's a fact. Says, I just heard it from an Indian. And you know them Indians, they keep their ears to the ground. And Paul says, do the folks know about this? The fellow says, I just heard about it myself. And Paul says, well, what we going to do? And the fellow says, I'm getting out of town. And Paul says, well, we got to spread the word. He says, you spread it. I'm getting out of town.